I remember the first time I noticed something was off. It was a chilly evening in October, and I had just returned from a grueling day of classes. The apartment was eerily quiet, the kind of quiet that makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. My roommate Jamie wasn't in the living room, which was unusual because he always greeted me with his signature smirk and some snide remark about my long hours at the library. I shrugged off the unease and headed to the kitchen to fix myself something to eat. The kitchen, normally a chaotic mess of dishes and takeout containers, was spotless. I found it weird but didn't dwell on it. I was too hungry to care. I reheated some leftover pasta and sat down to eat. A few bites in, I noticed a strange, bitter taste, but I attributed it to the old ingredients and my half-awake state. That night, I woke up drenched in sweat, my stomach churning painfully. I stumbled to the bathroom, barely making it before vomiting violently. My first thought was food poisoning. I cursed my luck and decided to take better care of my diet, blaming it on my reckless habit of eating anything within reach. Jamie's room was dark, the door slightly ajar. I could hear his soft, steady breathing, completely oblivious to my plight. Days turned into weeks, and the odd occurrences piled up. Jamie's behavior grew increasingly erratic. He was always on edge, glancing over his shoulder and muttering to himself. One evening, I came home early to find him in the kitchen, hastily shoving something into his pocket. He jumped when he saw me and forced a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Just trying a new recipe," he said, his voice strained. I nodded, pretending to believe him, but my suspicion was aroused. From that moment, I started paying more attention. I noticed Jamie's late-night phone calls, his secretive conversations that stopped abruptly whenever I entered the room. He was becoming a stranger, a shadow of the person I thought I knew. One Saturday, I decided to do some cleaning. I was dusting the shelves in the living room when I found a small, empty vial tucked behind some books. It had a faint chemical odor that made my stomach turn. My mind raced. What was Jamie up to? I decided to confront him but needed more evidence. I started to secretly record our conversations, careful not to raise his suspicion. A week later, I noticed another bitter taste in my food. This time, I didn't eat it. Instead, I secretly took a sample and managed to sneak it to a friend studying chemistry. The next day, my friend called, her voice urgent. "Alex, you need to get out of there. That stuff is dangerous. It's a slow-acting poison." My blood ran cold. The realization hit me like a truck. Jamie was trying to poison me. My thoughts were a chaotic mess of fear, anger, and disbelief. How could someone I trusted, someone I lived with, want to harm me? I had to act quickly. I started documenting everything, from the odd taste in my food to Jamie's strange behavior. My health continued to deteriorate, but I was determined to stay vigilant. I set up a hidden camera in the kitchen, hoping to catch Jamie in the act. One night I reviewed the footage and my heart stopped. There was Jamie, carefully pouring something into my food. His face was a mask of cold determination, his actions deliberate and calculated. It was the proof I needed, but it also terrified me to my core. I couldn't confront him directly. He was too unpredictable. Instead, I reached out to a trusted friend, explaining the situation in hushed, frantic whispers. We devised a plan to get me out safely, collecting all the evidence to present to the authorities. The days leading up to the escape were a nightmare. Every time Jamie looked at me, I felt a shiver of fear. My nerves were on edge, but I knew I had to stay calm. The night of the escape, I pretended everything was normal, even sharing a meal with Jamie, all the while knowing it could be my last. The night of the planned escape, my heart pounded with a mixture of fear and determination. I had arranged for my friend Sarah to pick me up after Jamie left for his usual evening run. I had packed a small bag with essentials and hid it under my bed, praying Jamie wouldn't notice my anxiety. As the door clicked shut behind him, I sprang into action. I grabbed my bag, the hidden camera, and all the evidence I had meticulously gathered. Just as I was about to leave, I heard the front door creak open. My stomach dropped. Jamie was back earlier than expected. Panic set in, but I forced myself to stay calm. I hid the bag under the bed again and pretended to be reading a book. Jamie entered the room, his eyes narrowing as he saw me. "What are you up to, Alex?" he asked, his voice a dangerous mix of curiosity and suspicion. "Just reading," I replied, forcing a casual tone. "What's up?" Jamie didn't answer immediately. Instead, he walked over to the kitchen and began rummaging through the drawers, his movements sharp and agitated. I watched, my mind racing. Had he discovered my plan? Finally, he turned to me, holding the vial I had found earlier. Looking for this? He asked, a sinister smile spreading across his face. I felt a surge of adrenaline. Jamie, what are you doing with that? What's going on? His smile faded, replaced by a look of cold determination. You weren't supposed to find that, Alex, but now that you have, there's no point in hiding it anymore. I stood up, trying to maintain my composure. Why, Jamie? Why are you doing this? Jamie's eyes darkened, and he began pacing the room, the vial clutched tightly in his hand. You wouldn't understand. You've always had it easy, always so perfect. I wanted to see you struggle, to know what it feels like to lose control. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. This wasn't just about jealousy or petty grievances. Jamie had been harboring a deep-seated resentment, and I was the unfortunate target. You need help, Jamie, I said, trying to reason with him. We can get you the help you need. But Jamie wasn't listening. He was too far gone, lost in his own twisted world. Help? You think I need help? You're the one who needs help, Alex. But it's too late for that now. Realizing that reasoning with him was futile, I inched towards the door, my heart pounding. Jamie, please, just let me go, and we can forget this ever happened. Jamie's face twisted with anger. You're not going anywhere! He lunged at me, but I was quicker. I dodged his grasp and bolted for the door, my mind screaming for survival. I ran out into the hallway, Jamie hot on my heels. My lungs burned, but I didn't stop. I reached the stairwell and took the steps 2 at a time, praying Sarah was already outside. Jamie's footsteps echoed behind me, a relentless reminder of the danger I was in. Bursting through the front door of the building, I saw Sarah's car idling by the curb. She saw me, and her eyes widened in shock. Get in! She yelled, throwing open the passenger door. I dove into the car, slamming the door behind me just as Jamie reached the curb. Sarah hit the gas, and we sped away, leaving Jamie standing there, his face contorted with rage. As we drove to the police station, I finally allowed myself to breathe. The nightmare was far from over, but I was safe, for now. Sarah glanced at me, her expression a mix of concern and determination. We're going to the police, Alex. We have to stop him. I nodded, clutching the hidden camera and the vial of poison. I know. It's time to end this. At the police station, we handed over the evidence. The officers listened to my story with grave faces, assuring me that they would take immediate action. They promised to arrest Jamie and conduct a thorough investigation. As I sat in the sterile police station, the reality of what had happened began to sink in. Jamie's betrayal, the danger I had been in, and the narrow escape all weighed heavily on my mind. But amidst the fear and exhaustion, there was a glimmer of hope. I had survived, and justice was within reach. The following days were a blur of interviews, medical tests, and restless nights. The police arrested Jamie, and the evidence I had gathered was crucial in building the case against him. The vial contained traces of a rare, slow-acting poison, and the recordings painted a chilling picture of Jamie's intentions. As the legal proceedings began, I started to rebuild my life. The physical effects of the poison slowly faded, but the emotional scars would take longer to heal. I leaned on Sarah and my other friends, grateful for their unwavering support. Through therapy and time, I began to understand the depth of Jamie's issues and the importance of seeking help for those in need. I decided to share my story, hoping to raise awareness about the dangers of toxic relationships and the signs of someone in distress. In the end, Jamie was convicted and sentenced to prison. The relief was palpable, but it was bittersweet. I had lost a friend, but I had also gained a newfound strength and resilience. Reflecting on the ordeal, I realized the importance of trust and intuition. I vowed to always listen to that inner voice, to never ignore the signs, and to be vigilant about the people I let into my life. The experience had changed me, but it had also made me stronger. As I stood outside the courthouse, the sun shining down on me, I took a deep breath and smiled. I had faced my darkest fears and emerged victorious. And with that, I was ready to start anew, leaving the past behind but never forgetting the lessons I had learned. The courtroom was silent as Jamie was led in, shackled and defeated. His eyes flickered with a mixture of defiance and desperation, but it was clear that the weight of his actions had finally caught up with him. I sat in the witness box, my hands trembling slightly as I prepared to testify against him. It was the final chapter in a saga that had consumed my life for months, and I was determined to see it through to the end. As I recounted the events leading up to that fateful night, the jury listened intently, their expressions a mix of shock and disbelief. The prosecutor presented the evidence, including the vial of poison and the recordings of Jamie's confession. It was damning, irrefutable proof of his guilt. Jamie's defense attorney attempted to paint me as paranoid and delusional, but the evidence spoke for itself. When Jamie took the stand, his demeanor was a far cry from the confident facade he had once projected. He stumbled over his words, his lies unraveling with each passing moment. In the end, the jury deliberated for only a few hours before returning with a verdict: guilty on all counts. The courtroom erupted in applause as Jamie was led away, his fate sealed by his own actions. Outside the courthouse, I was surrounded by reporters eager for a statement. I spoke of justice served and closure achieved, but the truth was far more complex. Yes, Jamie was behind bars where he belonged, but the scars he had left behind would linger for years to come. In the days and weeks that followed, I focused on rebuilding my life. With the support of my friends and family, I began to heal, both physically and emotionally. Therapy helped me process the trauma I had endured, and slowly but surely, I started to feel like myself again. One afternoon, as I sat in the park with Sarah, soaking in the warmth of the sun, I realized something profound. Despite the darkness I had faced, I had emerged stronger, more resilient than ever before. Jamie may have tried to poison me, but he had failed to destroy me. I was alive, and that was a victory in itself. As time passed, the memory of Jamie faded into the background, replaced by the vibrant tapestry of life. I graduated from college, pursued my passions, and forged new friendships along the way. The scars remained, but they served as a reminder of the strength that lay within me. Looking back on it now, I realize that sometimes, the greatest challenges we face are the ones that ultimately define us. Jamie's betrayal was a crucible through which I emerged, forged anew, and ready to face whatever life threw my way. And so, as I stand here today, reflecting on the journey that brought me to this moment, I am filled with gratitude for the resilience of the human spirit. Jamie may have tried to poison me, but in the end, he only succeeded in making me stronger.